I see ponies fair, princesses too. I see the land prosper and bloom. What a fine place to be, an equestrian world. I see ponies flying, move in the clouds, unicorn spells, please in the crowd. What a fine place to be, an equestrian world. The colors of the rainbow in a lovely mare's mane spread over the land with the sun and the rain. I see friends hugging friends, saying, I think you're great. The ponies have learned to love and tolerate. I hear ponies laugh with unending fun under the warmth of Celestia's sun and Luna's stars at night. In my equestrian world, yes, what a fine place to be, my equestrian
Hello everyone, and let's see if I can fix crap, because already crap's screwed up. So, anyways, well, I switched this so that my desktop audio is going through my Focusrite. One second here, let me test things. Are you kidding? Are you really kidding me? God. Desktop audio device. Always use the Focusrite. I don't understand why things have to change. Okay, it's working. Thank God. Okay. So, tonight has been a fun and interesting night. Yeah, just getting it out of the way now. I won't be around next week because I will be in Springfield, Missouri for some work training. And I will not be here the week after because I will be flying out to Painted Desert FurCon. So yeah, so that should be fun. But then after that I should be around. So yeah, and I'll probably leave stream up to Skyrays and Commander and CMC and whatever they can figure out what to do. So, because they're good at figuring things out. So I hope you enjoyed the intro video. Yeah, I scrounged that out of my folder drive thing. And yeah, so without further ado, let me introduce you to the call.
10 minutes. Just like that?
Yes, what? Just like that. So, hello, Cole.
Hi.
Boop.
So, starting off here, we have my lovely co-host, Crazy Matt Captain.
I murdered the rest. That's why none of them are here.
And yes, he asserted his beta dominance. And
I gave them the pink disease. They are now
pink. and speaking of things that a certain fish would probably like to eat, we have Double R Forest.
Wait. What's this about the fish you eat?
Why would my goldfish want to eat him? My goldfish does not want to eat him.
Like, no, really, why?
It wants to eat his front porch. There's a difference.
Look, buddy, look, I like your goldfish and all, but I'm not the snack that smiles back.
No, you're not. Your front porch is.
Why is your
and next up we have the keeper of said goldfish, Larsus.
Larsis is brought to you by our continuing coverage of CES 2019. Despite CES 2019 being over, we're going to continue to cover it. And the Asus Mothership laptop, which isn't really a laptop. It's more of a portable all-in-one, but it's awesome, so they brought it to us anyway.
Isn't the proper term desktop replacement?
No.
He's an early adopter.
And, yes, last but not least, somebody who now has a desktop, or a top to her desk, we have Marcy.
What? Wait, what?
I'm struggling to figure out something.
Did she just have legs before and her stuff's just sort of floated there?
Yes.
What is this? The Sims?
Yes.
Well then.
No, Noonie.
That pretty much. That's pretty much my life.
Oh god, I've got the thing I'm going to talk about at the end of the show.
Howdy.
So yes, so we have a bunch of lovely people. Larsis is back, and for the first time in forever. So
yeah, for the first time in forever.
God damn it! Fuck! No! Frozen games are overrated. God damn it!
It was worth it.
Gotta let it go, dude. Do you want to make an Iceman?
Well, he's gone. Hey, since he's gone, no more reading. What do you guys want to do today?
I'm gonna continue my.
I just had the worst dream, man.
Well, was
Sorry,
it us building a snowman?
yeah, I'm here for the reading.
Do you want to build a snowman? I hear it's going to snow Friday.
I don't play in the snow.
No,
Oh, you're one that gets thrown into the snowbank when the plows come through, and then you get stuck there.
Baron Yeager, I'm glad you're here.
He doesn't play in the snow. You see, he plays in the sheets, and the quick trip, and the pilot, and
You
the
shut up! The business, my business with myself.
I've already thrown off my glasses. I can't facepalm harder.
Our relationship is special. You have no right to judge. And more make fun of.
Hey, I was gonna say, what you sell in gas stations is all your problem. I just can't believe they're really kick-ass paninis.
Oh, I gave up that business years ago.
You shouldn't have.
What are you doing?
They were good paninis.
Yeah, they were.
According to Larsis, because I've never had a panini.
I mean, my favorite was the caprese, but everyone seemed to like the Italian one.
Baron Yeager, you're my only friend. Wait, no, my other friend. Where are you? 190 proof Everclear.
Where is Mr. Daniels? First name Jack?
Don't worry, I'm settling my coke addiction tonight.
Wait, are we talking cola or cocaine?
I don't know, but it comes in a form that says medio litro.
So, anyways, I guess
we have a reading.
So for once, we don't have to stall for anyone. For once, I have icons for every single person in call up on screen.
Do we need to stall? Did your food finish, Marcy?
In 20, I believe.
About 20 minutes.
Wait, I thought it was 20 minutes back then, but it's been a couple minutes now.
Yeah, I was saying, luckily in 20 minutes, I've got a nice ad break set up for us, so we're good to go.
Dang it, Marcy.
Simply cocaine?
Yes. Hey, it's 100% raw Colombian and USDA organic.
Is it made from a cocaine that's being fed happy thoughts constantly?
You're not very good at this.
No.
I find Ecuadorian variety to be very underrated.
Oh God, I actually do have an ad break set up ready for us after when Marzi needs to go get food, so we're good to go.
I will allow this. So, all right.
Awesome.
Put it
awesome. I can't wait for
45 minutes ago.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait for Winchester to shut off the stream once I start reading that, but that's beside the point.
No, he's just gonna mute you.
Well, maybe we should get a...
Here, I'll tell you what. I'll give you the title on it. It says Paragon Shopping Center warning sign.
That actually sounds like it could be either horrible or funny.
Warnings.
It's gonna be great. I could just do the world history according to student bloopers as well, but we should move on, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's your cue, really.
Take it away, Lawson.
Okay. Tonight we have Winchester playing the chair of Ponyville Cider Fest, treble. But also tonight we've also got Winchester, who will be playing Autumn Wing, and most importantly, we've got Winchester, who's going to be playing a random Pegasus stallion. We've also got Double R, who's going to be doing Rarity and her sister. Not at the same time, thankfully, because it's in different parts of the chapter. Marzi is also doing Lily and Scootaloo. I'm sorry, Lily and Applebloom. I can read, I promise you guys. CMC's doing Scootaloo. Of course, CMC and Marzi have never been seen in the same room together before, so they might actually be the same person. And
It's possible.
I will be narrating because Winchester was desperate.
You should hear him narrate it.
Well, luckily, this is 3 Gems and a Scooter by Rylan Krios, who must be Raylan Krios. That must be Thane's twin cousin from Mass Effect. Chapter starts, Hey Fries. If it had been up to Rarity, she would have simply told Scootaloo of her wishes. Scootaloo would, of course, be elated, and the two could begin the difficult but rewarding adjustment process of becoming a family. But like so many other things involved with Scootaloo's living situation, Rarity found herself at the mercy of bureaucracy and protocol. In this case, protocol was that Autumn would talk with Lily and Trouble after their second visit with Scootaloo, scheduled for later that afternoon. If they still wanted to move forward after that, then Autumn would tell Scootaloo and ask for her input. The insistence that Autumn talk to Scootaloo without Rarity or Lily present was done to ensure Scootaloo could make a decision without added pressure, as well as encourage her to be open and honest about her feelings. So, Rarity was sent home with explicit instructions not to talk to Scootaloo until she heard from Autumn. On one hoof, she was sure that if she did inform Scootaloo of her intentions, Full Services wouldn't do something so rash as to deny her application. But on the other, breaking the rules for something so important felt wrong. So Scootaloo came and went from school, and over during their conversations, they talked about Sweetie Belle and dancing and poker, and not one word about adoption was uttered. There was one moment when Rarity was tucking Scootaloo in, and she looked at the orange filly snuggled under the covers, and for a brief moment, everything felt perfect except for that notification sound. And in that moment, not telling Scootaloo that she could stop searching for a home was one of the hardest things she ever had to do. But since she couldn't, she settled for a
good night, dear.
As she performed one last check to make sure that Scootaloo's blanket was indeed secure. The next day, Scootaloo was off at school, and Rarity was trying to focus on her upcoming winter line, albeit without much success. She was in the middle of trying to determine whether the raspberry ribbon would provide more contrast than the periwinkle ribbon in her left hoof when she heard a rapping sound coming from the other side of the room. There was a knock on the door. The first knock on the door was the first sign that this wasn't a standard customer visit. Customers just walk right in, invited by the open sign Rarity hung on her door. Curious as to who would bother knocking, Rarity trotted past her mannequins and opened the door, only to be bewildered by the pair of ponies she saw standing there. It took her a few minutes to place them as the ponies she watched Scootaloo play Chutes and Ladders with a few weeks ago. Lily, standing right in front of the doorway, and her husband standing silently off to her right.
Can we talk?
Of course. Would you like some tea?
That was the only response Rarity could think of. An uncomfortable silence hung in the air as Rarity focused intently on getting cups and saucers out of her cabinet and rifling through her pantry for some appropriate brunch tea. Eventually, the water boiled, the tea had steeped, and every pony had run out of excuses to avoid talking.
So, what can I do for you? Can I assume you don't wish to buy a dress?
Rarity slid 2 cups of freshly brewed tea over to her guests.
Yes, it's about Scootaloo.
I assumed as much. I must say I am surprised to see you here. Autumn led me to believe that we wouldn't be having any contact.
Yes, but we thought that maybe we could save each other a lot of time and headaches if we just talked pony to pony.
After all, we all just want what's best for Scootaloo.
Rarity found herself bristling at Treble's addendum, and she wasn't sure why. She didn't know much about them, but they seemed to be decent enough ponies to have made it this far past Autumn's screening process. So the idea that they also cared about Scootaloo shouldn't bother her. But it did. Not because anything involving their intentions, but rather because it suggested that they shared the same level of concern for a filly they just met as she did for the same filly who'd been living with her for the better part of a month.
We were told that you were her temporary foster mother, and that you were taking care of her until her permanent home could be found.
Yes, well, strictly speaking, that is still true. I just think her permanent home should be here.
Rarity took a sip of her own tea, perhaps as a small rebuke.
I see. We'd like you to reconsider.
Rarity almost spit out her drink, instead forcing it down with a large swallow.
Excuse me? You came here to ask me to not adopt Scootaloo? Just who do you think you are?
Her anger grew like a red-hot ember inside her. The reaction was fueled by the idea that two ponies who she never actually met had the gall to tell her what to do, and it was at the idea that she couldn't be the one to adopt Scootaloo. Both aspects fueled her rage.
We're not saying you've done a bad job, but she seems very unhappy.
Of course she's unhappy. She's been in 5 different homes in 8 years. You really think her mood is somehow my fault?
Not at all, but we just feel that she might be happier in a, well, more complete home.
Rarity's eyes narrowed, and she gritted her teeth.
You actually mean to judge me because I'm not married?
Lily shook her head.
No, how you choose to live your life is your own business, but this is just about you. Children grow up better, adjusted in houses with both mother and father, and we can give her that, whereas you can't.
Children grow up better in houses where their parents understand them. In any case, I think Scootaloo should be allowed a say in where she lives.
And we feel that it would be best if she just didn't have to make the choice. Children are ill-equipped to handle these types of decisions.
So you expect me to just sit here quietly while you decide what's best for her?
While Lily was obviously trying to keep her voice level, Rarity made sure to place a particular emphasis on the word you.
Quite frankly, yes.
I see. Well, since I won't be doing that, is there anything else I can help you with?
I guess not.
Lily stood up to leave, Treble silently following her. Her and her husband promptly left the boutique, leaving Rarity with a fresh set of doubts. While Rarity was busy defending her choice to adopt, Scootaloo was sitting through another day at school. Scootaloo always had an uneasy relationship with school. She didn't particularly enjoy it, but it was a refuge from her home life, and it was an easy way to spend time with her friends.
Hey, Scootaloo, isn't that your friend?
Apple Bloom pointed toward the crowd of parents waiting for their children. Scootaloo noticed Autumn standing outside the school gates with some of the parents, and her heart leapt in her throat. Autumn never showed up at school unless she wanted to talk to her without any adults around, and he only did that when he was delivering bad news. Not that he ever really had good news to deliver.
Yeah.
Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle knew that Autumn wasn't really Scootaloo's friend per se, but out of respect for their fellow crusader, they made sure to never breathe a word of Scootaloo's living situation within earshot of any pony who might possibly tell Diamond Tiara.
I'll see you girls later.
Scootaloo spoke this over her shoulder as she quickly trotted over to Autumn. Autumn knew enough not to say anything until they were out of earshot of Scootaloo's classmates, so the two trotted wordlessly until they reached his office in the full services building. Autumn always made it a point not to sit behind his desk when he spoke to Scootaloo, making sure to always sit next to her on a small couch in his office. He wasn't sure if Scootaloo noticed or cared, but he did it anyway.
How are you doing, Scootaloo?
Fine.
Scootaloo shrugged, but she meant it. Up until she had been summoned, she was as happy as she could really remember being, which was to say she wasn't actively unhappy. Over their years together, Autumn had liked to think he had developed something of a rapport with Scootaloo. She wasn't one for small talk and meandering conversation. She preferred her news delivered short and to the point. So Autumn did his best to oblige.
Lily and Trouble have expressed an interest in adopting you.
Okay.
Scootaloo asked with a tilt of her head. It was a sad fact for many ponies. What was a once-in-a-lifetime moment was something of a routine for Scootaloo. Scootaloo had been through this particular dance several times, and this wasn't how these things were supposed to go. For starters, new parents always broke the news themselves. Sometimes they'd give her an envelope with freshly signed adoption papers. Other times, they'd simply ask if she was ready to join the family or some other euphemistically phrased question. But it was always her new parents that told her, so she couldn't figure out why Autumn was breaking the news. Autumn continued his thought before Scootaloo could ask her question.
But Rarity wants to adopt you too.
If Scootaloo was mildly confused before, she was now genuinely shocked. Rarity had been very upfront about the fact her stay at the boutique was going to be temporary. In Scootaloo's opinion, that's what made her stay work, because it meant she didn't have to worry about trying to make Rarity like her. Rarity wants to... Scootaloo mouthed silently.
Now, they can't both adopt you, and I have to choose. And I'd like your input. This affects you more than it affects me.
Scootaloo sat frozen on the couch, her mind rapidly trying to reconcile what was happening with her preconceived notions.
Choose what?
Who you want to live with.
Choose? I can't... I don't know.
Well, if you'd like, I can choose for you. They'd never have to know you were given a choice.
Autumn offered, in his own way of trying to help. Scootaloo couldn't deny that there was something very appealing in that offer. That way, when she had to move again, Scootaloo could tell herself it would have worked out differently if only Autumn had chosen better. Despite recent events, Scootaloo couldn't help but think, what would Rainbow Dash do? And the answer to that was easy. Rainbow Dash didn't let other ponies choose her destiny. She controlled her own fate.
No, I guess I should decide.
There was another pause as Autumn patiently waited for an answer.
When do I need to decide?
You can take as much time as you need. And if you need a place to stay, well, you think we can get you a room at the hospital.
The hospital? But I'm not sick. Am I?
Scootaloo suddenly looked very nervous.
No, but Ponyville is a small town, and there isn't a lot of emergency housing available. I can understand if you might not want to stay with Rarity while you think about this, but you still need a safe place to stay, and a hospital room is the best I can do.
Scootaloo shuddered. The last time she stayed at the hospital was when her second set of parents abandoned her. Her memories of the details of her stay were hazy, but her memories of her emotions at the same time were not. To this day, she still took the long way around Ponyville General, unless she had a really good reason not to.
No, that's okay. I can stay with Rarity.
Scootaloo reflected on all the times Rarity had given her space during the last few weeks. It felt foreign to have an extended significant measure of trust to any pony, but the alternative was staying inside a hospital, and that was even more unpalatable. Scootaloo could never remember having a place she rightfully considered home, but there was one place in Equestria that came close. The Crusaders' clubhouse was a haven from the outside world, Any turmoil that may have been going on outside didn't matter within the simple wooden walls, because once a Crusader was inside the clubhouse, they could always count on their fellow Crusaders to help them. This time, however, Scootaloo was thankful she was the only one here. She didn't call for an official Crusaders meeting, she just wanted a place she could be alone, and the clubhouse was a better alternative than the cave she'd picked last time. Alone, she curled up in the corner, and she reflected on the choice she had to make. The fact she even had a choice in being and of itself was confusing to her. She had never been given a choice before. Sometime one of her parents would ask her if she thought she might be happier somewhere else, but that was always code for, I'd be happier if you lived anywhere but here. A small part of her rebelled inwardly. It wasn't fair that she should have to choose who she lived with. Other ponies didn't have to make this choice. They got families automatically. She was busy alternating between trying to make a decision and being angry she even had to when she spotted Sweetie Belle in the doorway.
What are you doing here?
The question wasn't really accusatory. As a Crusader, Sweetie had all the same access pass to the clubhouse as she did.
Rarity said you hadn't come home yet, and so I thought you might be here.
Sweetie stepped into the room proper, taking care to close the door behind her. There probably wasn't any sense in lying to Sweetie Belle, and Crusaders always told each other the truth anyway. Scootaloo looked up from the corner.
Rarity wants to adopt me.
But whereas Scootaloo was scared, Sweetie was ecstatic.
That's great! We'd be sisters!
Sweetie paused and looked toward the sometimes leaky roof of the clubhouse. After a second, her face lit up again.
Well, actually, I guess Verity would be kind of like your mom, and I'm her sister, so that would make me your aunt. You could call me Auntie Sweetie Belle.
I am not calling you Auntie Sweetie Belle.
Scootaloo snapped with a very honest glare. Sweetie forced her smile down from its 1,000-watt level of excitement to something more comforting.
You don't have to call me Auntie Sweetie if you don't want to. You don't even need to think of me as your aunt. We could be sisters or cousins. We wouldn't even have to be anything, really. We'd just be family.
There was another long pause, and Sweetie rushed to fill the silence before it became oppressive.
I know we're not like the apples or anything, but please give us a chance, Scoots. It'd mean a lot to me.
Scootaloo just sat there, rapidly blinking as she listened. There was something strangely familiar about Sweetie's words. After a few minutes of staring with wide eyes, it hit her. Sweetie's please sounded just like her pleas to Rainbow Dash, full of fear that she was somehow intrinsically flawed.
Wait, you're worried that I might not want you?
Sweetie tilted her head, genuinely surprised that her worry would be confusing, because what else could be the problem?
Well, sure. I mean, we already know you're great, and I know that we're not perfect, but if you let us, I promise we'll all try really hard to be a good family.
Scootaloo was both touched and humbled by Sweetie's promise, until she remembered there was no way Sweetie could possibly realize what she was saying. Scootaloo had long ago resigned herself to her unhappy fate, and she wasn't about to foster it on her best friend.
But they're your family, sweetie. I know what it's like not to have a family. I don't want to take yours away from you.
Sweetie took another step forward, this time getting close enough to gently touch her shoulder.
A family's not like a basket of hay fries, Scoots. If I give you some of my family, it's not like there's less of them for me. It's like I give you some hay fries, and you give me some hay fries, and now every pony has more hay fries.
Wait, are we the hay fries, or is Rarity? And is there any ketchup?
Rarity's the hay fries, but so are we?
Sweetie gave a scrunched face as she tried to work through the mechanics of her clumsy food metaphor, eventually giving up.
I'm not sure. The point is, you wouldn't be taking any of my family away. You'd be adding to it.
Scootaloo flashed back to a day about 5 years ago on a kindergarten playground. She'd been sitting, all alone, just playing in the sand, when a little white unicorn walked up to her.
Would you like to use my shovel?
Scootaloo hadn't said anything. It seemed weird that this total stranger was offering her the use of a shovel. She didn't need one. Her hole in the ground was coming along just fine. Maybe this new pony was there to mock her. I have a shovel and you don't. And she was about to tell the white unicorn exactly what she could do with her stupid shovel, but before she could, the unicorn sat down next to her and started to dig in her carefully constructed hole.
Hey, what are you doing?
I'm sorry, I'm not very good at digging holes, and yours seems really nice, and I just thought maybe I could help you, and I'll leave you alone now.
The white unicorn stuttered before quickly getting up to scurry away. But in her haste to leave, she'd left the little blue shovel that started this mess behind. Scootaloo didn't really care where her new acquaintance went, but she didn't know it was wrong to keep. But she did know it was wrong to keep things that weren't yours.
Wait, you forgot your shovel.
The stranger turned around and slowly walked back over. Scootaloo stared at the ground and the hole she'd been digging. The shovel did seem to be a better tool than her hooves.
You can stay if you want to.
The unicorn smiled the biggest smile Scootaloo could remember and sat down, resuming her digging in what was now their hole in the ground.
Thanks! My name is Sweetie Belle.
And the rest, as they say, was history. Scootaloo snapped out of her daze to see that same white unicorn sitting in front of her again, offering her something that she didn't think she needed with the same hopeful expression on her face. Scootaloo looked down and sighed. Sweetie did care about her. She doubted a lot of things, but never that. And there was still no way her friend realized what she was signing up for.
Scoots?
Sweetie poked Scootaloo gently with her muzzle.
I don't want to come between you two. I couldn't do that to you.
Why in Equestria do you think that you'd come between us?
Sweetie settled in next to her orange friend.
I take up so much of Rarity's time already, and that's just as a house guest. How can you think she'll have enough time for you if she's stuck taking care of me?
She's not stuck with you. She wants to take care of you. She cares so much about you. We both do. We're practically family already.
Yeah, but what about you? Are you gonna be okay if Rarity can't play with you because she has to take dumb old Scoots to a dance recital?
If Rarity is taking you to a dance recital, I'm probably going too. Rarity always has stuff to do, and she still makes time for me. Why would that change? Just because she loves you doesn't mean she'd love me any less.
How do you know?
In her experience, actual genuine love was far too rare a commodity to be doled out so freely. Sweetie's next 3 words were devoid of any uncertainty.
Because we're family. My parents didn't abandon Rarity when I was born, and Applebloom doesn't love Applejack more than she does Big Mac or Granny Smith. That's part of what being a family means.
But you're always complaining about her.
I don't always complain about her. Besides, that's the other thing about family. Even when you're mad at each other, you still love them.
Scootaloo found herself at a loss for words.
But
what?
Scootaloo couldn't think of any more objections for Sweetie, but that didn't mean she was entirely convinced she finally found a place where she was wanted.
I think maybe I need to talk to Rarity.
And next up, we asked Marzi, how are we for time?
I'm good. I got food now. I'm happy.
Excellent.
You
Because
go.
our next part of this chapter is broken.
Oh no. How can we fix it?
Cyanoacrylate glue. That works really well according to Adam Savage. Anyway,
use duct
broken.
tape, though.
Scootaloo and Sweetie Belle walked back to the town until their respective paths diverged. Scootaloo needing to make a right to return to the Carousel Boutique, and Sweetie Belle needing to keep going down the cobblestone road to get to her parents' house. The 2 friends stood at the fork in the road, dimly lit by a rising moon, neither of them sure what to say. Scootaloo started to open her mouth, preparing to utter a perfunctory farewell, but instead found herself wrapped up in a tight hug. Sweetie broke away, and Scootaloo stared at her, waiting for some explanation, but Sweetie only smiled at her. That same hopeful smile she offered back in the clubhouse. Scootaloo tried to return the gesture, but her emotions were too conflicted for it to be genuine. Sweetie nodded, perhaps in understanding or perhaps just in acknowledgement, and trotted off down her path, leaving Scootaloo to finish the last leg of her journey by herself. Scootaloo walked slower than usual, desperately hoping for an epiphany that would guide her. But the gentle breeze and the cool night air only offered silence. By the time she reached her destination, the only thing she was sure about was that she wasn't ready to make this decision quite yet, regardless of Sweetie's heartfelt plea. She stood outside of Carousel Boutique, her resolve fresh in her mind, and pushed open the door, only to find the boutique empty. Scootaloo
Rarity?
called out to an empty room.
Rarity?
Seconds after hearing her name, Rarity came bounding down the stairs.
Scootaloo?
She called back before laying eyes on the orange filly at the base of the stairs.
Thank goodness you're all right. I was so worried. Where have you been?
Scootaloo ignored the question, instead choosing to focus on the topic she wanted to talk about.
Autumn came to talk to me today at school.
Oh, did he? And, is everything all right?
I'm not sure.
Scootaloo looked around the room, though Rarity couldn't be sure what she was looking for. Instantly, Rarity began to conjure up a number of worrisome scenarios that stemmed from her impromptu visit with Lily this afternoon. Maybe Autumn had determined that Scootaloo really was better off in a two-parent home. Maybe Lily had issued some form of ultimatum. Regardless, Scootaloo was unmistakably troubled, and that was disconcerting all by itself.
What happened? Is something the matter?
He told me that Lily and Trouble want to adopt me.
Scootaloo was just thinking out loud at this point. She still couldn't really wrap her head around what was going on, the idea that she might actually be wanted being too foreign to her. For as long as she could remember, she'd been shuttled from house to house, moving on when her new family grew tired of her. Her opinion never really mattered.
But he also told me that you wanted to adopt me too.
A glimmer of hope flickered in Rarity's eyes. She couldn't help it as the smile on her face grew wider.
It's true. I've wanted to tell you, but, well, I guess there's a process to this.
Rarity sat expectantly, waiting for Scootaloo to give some indication that she was even on a fraction as excited as Rarity was. But Scootaloo's expression remained frustratingly blank. Neither pony said anything for a few minutes, Rarity doing her best to stay still and Scootaloo becoming increasingly fidgety as the air grew denser. Rarity froze, just watching Scootaloo. She'd been hoping Scootaloo's reaction would be a big smile and possibly a hug, but since Scootaloo didn't seem to be offering either, Rarity began preparing herself for rejection. It stung more than she thought it would. Eventually, Rarity couldn't bear it anymore.
Scootaloo?
She hoped her voice was calm even though her heart was pounding.
I don't know.
Scootaloo's eyes were rooted to her hooves as she pawed at the ground in front of her.
I see.
For a moment, Rarity began to see this as a garden variety dilemma, like whether to wear a stylish brim or a chic fedora.
Perhaps we could back up. What about Lily and Trouble? What do you think of them?
They seem nice.
Scootaloo shrugged, but before Rarity could ask another question, Scootaloo spoke again. This time her voice was cracked, and tears began to well up in the corner of her eyes.
They always seem nice, until they realize that I'm broken, and then they don't want me anymore. It always happens, always!
You're not broken, Scootaloo.
Rarity repeated the lesson she had tried to impress on Scootaloo ever since the first night Scootaloo had stayed at the boutique. Scootaloo's brow furrowed, and she shook her head violently.
Yes, I am! You just don't realize it yet, either!
Scootaloo cried, the tears now falling down her cheeks. Rarity paused, her previous illusion that she could talk her way through this shattered. In a way, Scootaloo wasn't entirely wrong. The reason she didn't have a home was partly her fault, but not in the way Scootaloo thought it was. She wasn't broken, but her insistence that she had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Rarity started to take a step forward, intent on offering some form of physical comfort, but Scootaloo flinched, and Rarity opted to stay where she was.
What about Sweetie Belle? She's been your friend for a while. Do you think she thinks you're broken?
Sweetie Special. She says that you want me as a member of the family.
She's right. It would make me so happy to make it official.
Rarity hoped to capitalize on Scootaloo's goodwill toward her sister, but Scootaloo just sighed, furiously trying to wipe the tears off her face.
You've been living here for a month already. It's all been absolutely splendid.
No, it hasn't.
Scootaloo stomped her right leg. A fresh wave of tears began to well up in her eyes.
Just stop it, okay? I've heard this all before. It's never true, and I'm sick of being lied to.
What do you mean, dear?
That ponies want me as a member of their family, that they want to adopt me, that we'll have a wonderful time, and this time it's different. All of it.
I'm sorry, Scootaloo. I didn't mean to upset you.
Scootaloo sniffed loudly, wiping at her eyes.
I've heard that too.
There was another long pause. Only this time it was because Rarity was waiting on Scootaloo to lead the conversation.
Why do you want to adopt me?
Her tone was momentarily free of anguish, and instead, almost honest.
I know this hasn't been easy for you. Why wouldn't you just pass me off?
I won't lie to you, Scootaloo. I meant it when I said that having you here this last month has been splendid. But you're right, it hasn't been easy.
Scootaloo's head jerked up from its previous downcast position, but Rarity continued before Scootaloo could interpret her statement as another rejection.
But nothing worth doing ever is. I want to adopt you because I care about what happens to you. Not as your friend, sister, or generous spirit, but as some pony who genuinely wants you to be cared for, kept safe, and to feel what every pony deserves. A sense of belonging. A family.
Scootaloo badly wanted to believe that Rarity was lying, but her tone and the conviction with which she uttered her words made that impossible. She also wanted very badly to believe Rarity was telling the truth, but her experience had taught her that wasn't likely either.
I need some time to think.
Forced to concede that Scootaloo needed to be able to work through her own process, Rarity simply nodded.
All right. Is there anything I can do to help?
You've done enough.
Despite the callousness of the words, Rarity didn't detect any anger in Scootaloo's tone. Rather, she said it with the same weary resignation Scootaloo seemingly always returned to. The only response she could offer was a soft,
Very well, then.
Before Scootaloo trudged upstairs. Scootaloo lay in bed, alone in the upstairs bedroom of the boutique. She didn't want to admit it, but she liked this room, and that, more than anything, ate at her. She wanted to hate the room. She wanted to hate Rarity. You don't miss a room you hated. A pony you hated suggesting you might be happier anywhere else was good news. She had learned a long time ago that things you hated couldn't hurt you, and not being hurt was the most important thing in the world. A hurt pony was a weak pony, and Scootaloo wasn't weak. Weak was for ponies that could afford that particular luxury. So she pulled the covers closer to her and tried desperately to hate the soft feel of the blankets and the color scheme that reminded her of Rainbow Dash without being obvious. And how those pictures of on the wall, and what that was her scooter in the corner. She tried to hate Rarity for letting her make her own decision because that was exactly what she asked for. And then she tried to hate Rarity for not forcing her to join her family and not promising that everything was going to be okay from now on. That last one was particularly loathsome because it meant she couldn't hate Rarity for lying to her. Scootaloo skipped breakfast. It was harder to hate a pony who fed you, opting to leave without saying anything and pick up an apple on her way to the full services office. Perhaps the only good thing about being an orphan was that your case officer could write you a note excusing you from school when you had orphan problems, such as needing to meet a prospective parent. Autumn didn't do it very often, but he had done it. Skulu didn't bother waiting at the front desk. She simply marched right up to her case officer's office to find Autumn sipping a cup of coffee as he filled out some forms. Autumn wasn't entirely surprised Skulu was there, given yesterday's conversation, and while he assumed she would be back to either give him an answer or to ask more questions after school, he wasn't about to kick her out for not working around his schedule.
Good morning.
It was as good an opener as he could think of. Skulu wasted no time getting to the purpose of her visit.
I want to talk to Lily in Treble. Can I do that?
Sure. I'm happy to arrange another meeting. I think I could bring them in tomorrow.
No, today. It has to be today.
Scootaloo.
It's important. I can't go to school. Sweetie's there, and I won't be able to focus, and I need to talk to them today. Please, Autumn!
Scootaloo pleaded with wide eyes. Despite his years of working with troubled children, or perhaps because of them, Autumn had a weakness for fools in distress. In particular, hearing Scootaloo's anguish always brought him back to the first time he had met her. It was an experience that still ranked as one of the worst moments in his life. One thing he could say about Scootaloo was that she was always honest with him, and it didn't take much to see she simply wasn't looking for an excuse to avoid a math test. So he relented.
I can't promise that they'll say yes, but if you'd like to wait here, I can go see if they're willing to come today.
Thank you.
Scootaloo breathed out a momentary sigh of relief. The playroom at the full services office was almost a second clubhouse to Scootaloo for all the time she had spent in there, so the idea of killing a few hours there may not have been pleasant, but it wasn't unfamiliar. No one needed to tell her where the crayons were or the daring do coloring book. She simply retrieved them from the drawer and took a familiar seat at the table in the far corner. She sighed as she opened it up to find that some careless fool had colored in the picture she had been working on, not paying attention to the lines at all. Scootaloo turned the page to find a fresh picture and began a new project. At one point, a green Pegasus poked his head in. Scootaloo didn't recognize him.
Do you need anything?
She wasn't sure if he was a new staff member, a stallion thinking about adopting, or just some obnoxious pony there to annoy her.
No.
She made a point to turn her attention back to her coloring book. The stallion shrugged and left her alone. She sat undisturbed for a couple hours until she saw Autumn walk up to the door, Lily following him.
Hello, Scootaloo.
Lily's voice was like an ocean breeze, tranquil on the surface but teeming with possibility underneath.
Hi.
Scootaloo tried and failed to make eye contact.
I hope it's okay that Treble isn't here. He had a music lesson to teach, but he wanted to tell me... He wanted me to tell you that he's happy to answer any questions you have when he gets back, and he's looking forward to Chutes and Ladders rematch.
It's fine.
Okay.
Lily took a few steps closer and sat down next to Scootaloo.
So, Autumn didn't really tell me anything. He just said you wanted to meet with us.
Scootaloo's heart began to beat faster, and she forced herself to try and stay calm.
Why do you want to adopt me?
Scootaloo asked as calmly as she could manage, but her voice was still tinged with aching loneliness. The question clearly rattled Lily, and she reflexively blinked several times before speaking again.
Well, I've always wanted to be a mom. I know all little fillies play with dolls, but ever since I was little, I dreamed of taking care of my own little child.
Her voice shared a similar ache to Scootaloo's oft-stated desires to move in with Rainbow Dash. Scootaloo had never really played with dolls, but that didn't seem to be worth mentioning right now.
but why adopt?
Where babies came from was still a bit of a mystery, but Skulu knew enough to know that most parents who wanted children just kind of had them. They didn't go through the trouble of adopting one.
I can't have children. Treble and I tried for so long to get pregnant. When we didn't, we went to the doctor and he told us that
Lily stopped as she realized Skulu wasn't looking for a medical history or biology lesson.
He told me that my body couldn't have foals.
Scootaloo recognized genuine pain when she saw it, an unfortunate side effect of being intimately familiar with it, and the anguish of Lily's grimace was clearly genuine.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Lily tried to smile, and Scootaloo recognized it as the same pained smile she saw in the mirror every day.
But it's okay. I may not be able to have my own foals, but that doesn't mean that I can't be a mom. And when I met you and you seemed like you were looking for a family too, I thought that we could be each other's family.
That's a nice thought.
That's what you wanted to ask? Why we wanted to adopt?
Scootaloo shook her head.
Not really. I'm kind of. I want to know why you wanted to adopt me. I'm not the only orphan in Ponyville. I don't garden. I'm not very good at music. You did get to pick your own child. Why wouldn't you pick somebody better?
I don't mind that you don't garden, and I'm sure Treble doesn't care if you can't carry a tune. We can teach you if you want or not. And you can teach us things that you like. And you said you like to dance, right?
Scootaloo nodded, but didn't need to say anything else. Lily wasn't sure how to proceed, so she said the only thing she could think of.
Would you like to come see our house?
Autumn walked with Scootaloo as Lily led them through Ponyville, opting to stay quiet. For her part, Scootaloo was kind of hoping Lily's house would be a rundown shack just so her choice would be easier. Yes, this is where we live. Here's the broom closet you'll be staying in, so no, you don't get a bed. But it wasn't. It was a cozy-looking one-story house on the east side of town. The outside was painted blue and the roof didn't have any gaping holes. The extravagant, multi-floral flower bed being the main thing that distinguished it from its also well-maintained neighbors.
Do you like them?
Lily gestured towards a patch of orange tulips that Scootaloo kept staring at. Scootaloo nodded, hoping that Lily didn't specifically plant orange tulips in preparation for her arrival.
Come, let me show you the inside.
Lily and Treble's house was pretty much what Scootaloo was expecting based on her impression of the exterior. Fresh flowers filled a number of vases on the table and end tables of the living room and kitchen, but stopped just shy of being excessive. Furniture matched and looked perfectly stable, and there didn't appear to be any rodent or insect problems. Autumn stood off to the side, letting Lily lead the way. A pungent waft hit Scootaloo's nose, and she wrinkled her snout.
What's that smell?
Oh, I made a few loaves of garlic bread earlier. It tastes great, but I guess the smell does kind of linger, doesn't it?
The thought of garlic bread reminded Scootaloo of spaghetti, and how that one meal in particular always served a reminder that she was living with ponies who didn't care enough about her to remember that she hated spaghetti. Lily spoke before Scootaloo could dwell on the meaning of garlic bread.
Would you like to see your room?
Scootaloo followed Lily down a short hallway to a room located on the left. Much to her disappointment, it was not a broom closet, and she didn't share it with a hot water heater or a washing machine. Other than being sparsely decorated, it seemed to be a perfectly nice room. The walls were a soft shade of white, and it had a window overlooking the backyard that afforded her a nice view of Lily's flower garden. It was connected to its own bathroom and already had a set of wooden child-sized furniture, desk, dresser, and bed similar to every bedroom she'd ever had. It seemed so familiar that it wasn't particularly hard to imagine living in this one. Lily again interrupted her thoughts.
I was thinking that maybe we could go out and pick out decorations together if you decided to stay here.
I don't know. You have a nice house.
Scootaloo pawed at the ground. A different pony might have meant that as a perfunctory compliment, but for Scootaloo it was meant a test, to see if Lily would try and pressure her into moving in. Perhaps Lily sensed Scootaloo's intentions, or maybe she just figured out that Scootaloo didn't need to hear anymore about how much she wanted an affiliate of her own to take care of. She responded with a sincere,
"Thank you,"
and left it at that. Both Autumn and Lily just waited, and Scootaloo felt their gaze grow more oppressive. Clearly they were waiting on her to say something. She dared not look either of them in the eye.
I need some time to think.
Of course. I understand.
With that, Lily passed Scootaloo's last verbal test. Autumn led her outside, where he informed her that she had a day off from school if that's what she wanted, and that, as usual, he would do his best to get her anything else she might need. Scootaloo spent the rest of the day in a haze. She mainly kept to the outskirts of town, a byproduct of wanting to be alone. She couldn't retreat to the clubhouse because her fellow crusaders would likely be there. She didn't want to go back to the boutique, and she also didn't want to spend any more time in the full services office. Ponyville was too small a town for her to walk around without running into Rainbow Dash or Pinky or Applejack or any of her classmates, and she really didn't like those caves down by the lake. That left the outskirts of town on the west as the place she could be where she wouldn't likely run into any pony, but was still also relatively safe. Lily was the safe choice. She didn't really think it would work out, but when it inevitably failed 8 months from now, it wouldn't be anything new. A couple of awkward conversations, and then she'd pack her bags and move somewhere else to repeat the process. A breakup with Rarity wouldn't be so easy. Despite her mantra of not being weak, Scootaloo knew she had one glaring weakness. Two, if she was being technical about it. Her fellow crusaders were the only two ponies she knew who accepted her wholly for who she was. That meant they were alone. That meant they alone were unique. In quiet moments, Scootaloo would sometimes wonder if there was anything she categorically wouldn't do for Apple Bloom and Sweetie Belle. The answer always came back as no. If the need was dire enough, Scootaloo couldn't imagine refusing anything that might help them. And breaking up with Rarity would mean breaking up with Sweetie Belle. Not entirely, of course. She knew, or fervently prayed, Sue would still be her friend. But if she had to leave Rarity's house, it would strain their friendship in ways Scootaloo didn't want to think about. She sat on a hill watching the sun go down. A stiff breeze forced her to notice how cold it was, and gnawing hunger reminded her she hadn't eaten since her apple in the morning. A small voice in her head told her that being cold and hungry was what she deserved. But the more self-interested voice told her that there was food and heat back at the Carousel Boutique. The thought that being cold and hungry wasn't going to change her decision pulled her to her hooves, and Scootaloo began to walk back to town. She entered the boutique to find Rarity puttering about on her sales floor, subtly adjusting the gowns on display and swapping the various accessories.
There you are. I was beginning to worry.
Rarity set the rest of her scarves down on an end table.
I know. I'm your responsibility. Tongue. Work with me. I know. I'm your responsibility until I leave, broken or not.
As a matter of fact, I was just thinking about that. What you said earlier about being broken.
So you do agree with me?
It was unclear whether Scootaloo meant it as a declaration or a sentence.
No, I am merely proposing a hypothetical in which you are right, so for a moment, let's say that you are. It doesn't have to be a bad thing.
How can it not be bad? Broken things don't work. That's why they are broken.
Are you familiar with kintsugi?
Scootaloo shook her head.
Kintsugi is a Japanese technique for repairing pottery.
Rarity adopted that familiar lecture tone of voice instantly recognizable to children everywhere.
If it's a pottery thing, how do you know about it?
Scootaloo asked, momentarily wondering if Rarity was also a secret potter in addition to being a poker-playing fashionista.
A couple years ago, Eastern influences became very popular in Manhattan, so I incorporated a few points into my spring line. But that's not the point.
What is the point, then?
With kintsugi, potters use gold to fill in cracks from broken pieces. The result is that the broken pot is more beautiful precisely because it has been broken.
Scootaloo heard the words, but they didn't make any sense. A broken scooter wheel was a useless wheel, and even if it could be repaired, it would still never be as good as a fresh out-of-the-box wheel.
I don't get it.
I was afraid a demonstration might be in order. Follow me.
Rarity turned towards the workspace of Carousel Boutique. Sitting on the ponikin in the center of the room was a silver dress. Bit too large to fit Scootaloo, but was also clearly too small for Rarity. It was composed of 3 distinct pieces: a long flowing back piece made of silver silk, a light blue top piece to cover the wearer's shoulders, and a small cinch that graduated from silver to blue to connect the two.
This was the first dress I ever really designed and sewed myself.
The pride in Rarity's voice was unmistakable.
It's nice?
Scootaloo guessed, not having any real opinion on what she was looking at.
Thank you. I'm afraid it's a bit tacky in retrospect, but regardless, it holds a special place in my heart.
Rarity took a deep breath and used her magic to tear several large rips in the back piece, letting out a small whimper as she did.
Why'd you do that?
If Rarity thought she was going to endear herself to Scootaloo by breaking things in some weird act of solidarity, then clearly Lily was the better option.
Because it serves to illustrate my point.
Using an impressive bit of telekinetic magic, Rarity deftly wove the pieces of purple ribbon, the ripped back piece, and sewed the dress back together in a silver thread. When she was finished, the back piece now had some irregular purple stripes running down the length. Perhaps the dress wasn't as polished as it had previously been, but the additions gave it a character and charm that had previously been lacking. Rarity's next words were spoken softly, lest Scootaloo interpret them as a challenge, false hope, or anything other than a simple declaration.
I don't think you're broken, Scootaloo. But even if you think you are, the broken part is just part of what makes you special.
Rarity wrapped the dress in a magic bubble and gently levitated it to Scootaloo.
Here, I want you to have this, regardless of what you decide.
Scootaloo took the dress in her forelegs, running a hoof over the freshly repaired tears.
You don't have to do that.
I want to. Perhaps it can serve as a small reminder that you are perfectly fine, imperfections and all.
Scootaloo sat in her room, still waiting for that epiphany that had eluded her since yesterday. Throughout the day, she kept hoping that Lily would slip up and reveal herself to be some evil matron intent on adopting Scootaloo as part of some nefarious scheme, or failing that, just a mean pony. But as far as Scootaloo could tell, Lily was just a pony looking in to grow her family. She seemed nice enough. All the ponies who tried adopting her did at first, till the novelty wore off and they grew sick of her. She thought about what Rarity said, not so much the weird Japanese pottery thing, but about what Rarity said about Sweetie Belle. Sweetie had known her longer than any pony and was still her best friend. Granted, being a friend was markedly different than adopting some pony, but it still had to matter that Scootaloo was still her friend after knowing her for years. And if Sweetie could see past her brokenness, then maybe Rarity could too. Scootaloo hopped off the bed and trotted over to the closet where the dress Rarity gave her hung. She stared at it, hoping to gain further insight, but the idea that Rarity really did love her enough to overlook her flaws was equally as elusive as the epiphany about Lily. Scootaloo sighed. Realizing that the dress wasn't going to make her decision for her, she drifted over to her desk. A pang of longing pierced her chest as she saw the pictures of Rainbow Dash, that particular wound still raw. Next, she studied a picture of her fellow Crusaders with wide smiles on their faces as they posed in front of the Ponyville schoolhouse. Scootaloo stood in the center, her forelegs draped over the other two. What Scootaloo liked about the picture was that it was impossible to look at without seeing anything other than three happy friends. For a brief moment in time, captured in that image, she was indistinguishable from any normal filly. She thought about the past month. It had been terrible. In fact, if she was being honest with herself, it had been nice. She was enjoying her dance lessons. She liked playing poker with Rarity. Even if she always lost, but more important than any of that was that Rarity didn't seem to be going through the motions. Sweetie's sister had actually, genuinely welcomed her into her home. Rarity could have left the upstairs bedroom decorated as it was, but she didn't. She could have told Scootaloo that she didn't like barley soup, so she wouldn't be making it for dinner, but she didn't. And Rarity didn't have to tuck her in and comfort her when she was crying at night. She did that anyway, too. Scootaloo didn't appreciate the idea of a spell was used to unwrinkle fabrics being used on her, and Rarity refused to keep calling it her horn thing, so the pair had come to a compromise. Rarity modified the spell further with some help from Twilight so that the warmth generated had less airflow and was thus less like a dryer and more pure magic. In exchange, Scootaloo had agreed to call it the bedtime spell. Scootaloo had grown to like bedtime spell. For one, it didn't involve any physical touching. Previous foster parents had sometimes insisted on a goodnight kiss or hug. Scootaloo was wary about being touched. She wasn't sure exactly why. Encroaching on her personal space felt like the first step towards being let down. Better to stop that before it started. She couldn't place a hoof on exactly why the bedtime spell made her feel safe. Safe wasn't technically the right word. Saying she felt safe implied that Scootaloo was scared at night. It wasn't that Scootaloo was afraid of the dark or anything like that. It was that when she was being bathed in warm magic, she felt wanted. And since her biggest fear was that she wasn't, the bedtime spell quieted that worry. Scootaloo made a decision. It felt like a big deal, but as far as she could tell, the rest of the world didn't notice. There were no fireworks or heralding trumpets. It was like pushing yourself off a steep hill on a scooter, she mused. Once you committed on that course, there was no stopping until the end. As Scootaloo knew from experience, trying to stop a scooter at full speed as it barreled down a precarious incline left you with some nasty scrapes and bruises. Better to grip the handlebars tight and look for a suitable path to the bottom. Her Scootaloo metaphor firmly entrenched and ushering her onward, Scootaloo walked into the hallway. The telltale whir of Rarity's sewing machine told her that the workshop of Carousel Boutique was where she was likely to find the pony she was looking for. Scootaloo pushed the door open and quietly spoke.
Rarity?
She was unsure and the din of the sewing machine would drown out her voice. Rarity looked up from her sewing machine to catch a hint of purple tail in her peripheral vision. Knowing or not, Scootaloo had placed herself directly behind the machine's body, and Rarity took a step to the side so she could better see the pony addressing her. Scootaloo struggled to make eye contact.
I think I'd like to maybe try staying here, if you're still okay with that.
It wasn't exactly the feverish acceptance Rarity had been hoping for, but functionally, it was the same.
Of course I am.
Neither pony said anything for a few moments. Rarity unsure of how to act in the situation, and Scootaloo not wanting to risk saying anything that could make Rarity change her mind.
I mean, I don't know if it's gonna work, it's just that...
Scootaloo stopped and fought back tears she didn't realize were forming.
I'm sick of moving, and I'm sick of being sad all the time. I just want a home, and maybe it can be here. I mean, you're related to Sweetie, so...
Scootaloo paused as she realized her rambling was bordering on incoherent. Rarity took a few steps forward and gently wrapped Scootaloo in a hug. Their first one as family members, albeit still unofficial ones. She cradled the orange filly, who was alternating between trying not to cry and accepting that she was. Rarity had a minor epiphany. Scootaloo wasn't broken, but she was fragile, and evidently she had placed that fragility in her hooves. It was profoundly humbling. A few moments later, and Scootaloo pushed herself away and looked up at Rarity with wide-eyed innocence only children could summon.
Scootaloo, I won't pretend that everything is going to be perfect from now on. These things take time. Maybe we can work together to smooth out the rough patches, okay?
It wasn't as eloquent a phrase as Rarity wanted to deliver, but it was what she came up with.
Okay, Mom?
Scootaloo spoke with a grimace followed by a weak smile. It was clear that she was uncomfortable using that word, but that she was also trying to mask her displeasure. Unfortunately for her, her age and tendency to wear her heart on her sleeve was working against her in that regard.
Pumpkin?
Rarity's inflection rose with her response. It wasn't that she was any more comfortable with sudden name changes, but as an adult and one who worked in an industry where lying to preserve others' feelings were commonplace, she was much more practiced at hiding her emotions. Scootaloo flinched at the sobriquet, her ears folding back against her head, and an awkward silence hung in the air. Finally, Scootaloo spoke again, not daring to make eye contact.
Would it be okay if I just called you Rarity?
It would. Would it be okay if I just called you Scootaloo?
Uh-huh.
Splendid.
For a moment, the tension was lifted. Scootaloo looked around the room, trying to take in the idea that this was home now.
So, now what?
Well, now I guess we make it official.
We do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Preach, brother.
You have to do it in the JFK voice.
Nah, not in this case. I'm going to stick with the going the full James Spader on you guys.
I did
The
not
the Larsus narrating our lives voice.
I'll admit, this story is actually getting to me more than it probably should, because I had to make a similar decision when I was 6 and my parents were separated.
Oh.
Oh.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know.
I guess you joined in the in the right chapter then, maybe.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
With how much material we have left in the story, we have enough for 2 more readings for the story, and then it'll be over. This one will be over.
Cool. So, as I said at the beginning of the stream when nobody else could hear me, I'm not going to be around for the next 2 weeks, so
Yeah.
probably not any readings there, but since
I'll still get it ready.
Yeah, so...
And that'll give us some time to breathe and regather ourselves, because that was a lot of emotion that Scootaloo just showed there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did actually pretty decent, CMC.
Even though I couldn't keep to a singular tonal quality for her voice, because I know I went very low for a couple of those. No.
I feel like I might have...
I felt that that was just more emotional.
Although
Yeah,
I
do tend to play into the emotion quite nice.
Yeah,
No,
I felt like you did really great.
No, in the words of Abraham Lincoln, you done good.
As a spectator from the outside, I'd just like to say that was awesome.
You were muted for half of it.
I was watching it on the stream.
Yeah.
Why would you watch it there? It has a lot worse audio quality, which is kind of... Which I shouldn't be saying because my audio is right here.
So, although, what about my, the Rarity and Sweetie Belle? Were those good?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
No, they genuinely, and you also did a good job of differentiating them.
Luckily, that was easy. Sweetie Belle's squeaky and Rarity Belle's were fine, so...
Ladies and gentlemen,
Rarity
on the
Belle?
stream, we're just taking notes with you guys listening, so you know what goes into a production like this.
Yeah. And by the way, Lars, you're not allowed to leave the state of Arizona until we finish this fic.
Yeah, good job enforcing that, especially if Senshi has his way.
Don't worry, we already talked to your Goldfish about this. He's going to help us with this.
Actually, it isn't.
Yeah, that
It just
flash.
popped forward to 2483 and got me one of my starships. So I might be streaming from, I don't know, Alpha Centauri or something.
Fun.
Why would you
So
wanna
we
go
never,
there?
so we never did our ad break. This is our ad break right here. Paragon Shopping Center warning sign: instructions for the tourist. 1.
No.
The playground is fit for 3 to 13 years children to play. Parents should lead them to play. If before entering the naughty place, hand in your shoes to the administrator. Forbid to carry the sharp things when playing, such as knife. Forbid to quare and do some practical jokes when playing. 4. When playing in the ball pool, the head should protrude from the spherical surface. The tourist can't throw with the balls. 5. Obey the Naughty Palace's safety navigation. 6. Forbid to slip from the tube with the head downward. 7. Forbid to stay in the tube so as not to hinder other children's pass through. 8. Forbid stool and urine, spit in everywhere. Advocate using civilization language. 9. If the tourist has heart disease, infection disease, psychosis disease, stupid disease, any disease is forbid to play in it. 10. Forbid shooting at close distance when playing with the gun and artillery. Not permit to peer the gun point with your eyes. 11. Not permit to touch with the flying saucer and the airplane. And finally, 12. Forbid to carry edible beverage in the Naughty Palace.
Addendum. Those who do not follow the safety rules of the Naughty Palace get punished.
With the gun and artillery, apparently.
Oh.
This has been the Paragon Shopping Center warning sign: instructions for the tourist.
Lovely.
So, just what was with the I don't see a reason that they inserted the Pegasus Stallion just in there. Also,
I have
it's
no
just
idea. That's
My
supposed
guess.
to be just that extra pang of thought upon Scoodly.
Maybe
that
they just
was
felt like
there.
somebody would try to check in with her at least once while she's stuck in that office.
Yes,
Those are
but
beautiful
it-
background windows.
It
I'm
still
sorry.
felt a little out of place.
I'm
Well,
not
that's
used to
really
having a
crazy.
Windows laptop, guys. And the lock screens on Windows 10 change, and some of them are just truly beautiful photography.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, Windows 10 tries to do that with their backgrounds
Yeah,
and
mine
their
is
lock screen stuff.
mine is the new Lunar Republic. Yeah, very beautiful.
I mean, heck,
Eh.
just think of that. It's
I was
an
going to say one of my
anthology
favorite.
thing. The rarity going. Just on the, I think it's Windows 7 background.
Oh.
Today,
With-
by the
with
way,
the
Winchester, I went on the internet and I found this on Engadget.
I'm scared of your way that you're saying that.
Hold on. I'm sorry. What is? Let me see that.
I'm scared of the post itself and where he posted it.
No.
And I'm also
Mike
scared of the
says
fact that
no.
Commander responded right
Marvel.
afterwards.
No. Well, that is Commander's background, and it
Why
is a
do
very
women
pretty
get the better
dragon eye.
looking boys?
No one's ever said that on television before.
Well, who doesn't want a Barbie?
Yeah,
I did play with
exactly.
Barbies as a kid, actually.
Word paperclips.
How am I not
Yes,
surprised?
I believe that.
What? They were
That
way
might
better
be the
looking
thing.
than all the dumb cars and stuff like that they had in the boys' aisles. They actually had little accessories too. There's more detail into it.
Okay.
So is this the point where we do shoutouts?
I don't know.
I
I
guess
still
it
have
can.
a heartache from this read.
I don't know. I'm still enjoying the fact that I finally got Larsus back here.
Right? Oh my god, it's been forever.
Yeah, you know what's funny about it is he was talking about sound engineers. It's just like, hey, Winchester.
I was gonna say I was talking about how it sounded absolutely shitty, and what am I doing in 2 weeks?
You're doing monitor mixing.
Yeah.
For Foxes and Peppers.
Yeah.
But by the way, I found that we might not need to have a dedicated monitor mix for them because it was so easy to set one up at Aquatifer. Now, to be fair, I was using Yamaha CL5 to do it, but at the same time, they are so easy to work with. They're just so fun to work with, too, because they're playful on the stage. You can tell that they genuinely enjoy their music. And on top of all of that, it's just like, you know how the Kriebers are super easy to work with because they tell you exactly what they want?
Yep.
They're the same way.
Okay.
Sky, they're speaking Greek at us. I don't understand it.
So what you're saying
Unfortunately,
is
they
the
taught me
exact
Greek.
same thing as Denver, where we really don't need a monitor mixer, but we're going to have 2 M32s there anyway, so we might as well make use of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's honestly, Senchi and I had the exact same discussion the other day. It was just like,
I mean, genuinely, we're not going to need it if I'm being completely honest on it.
Yeah. I'll make up a patch list like just in case like somebody randomly shows up with a full drum kit that needs mics.
No. Fox and Peppers have a full drum kit, but we don't need a dedicated monitor mix.
Huh?
No one on that stage wants drums in their monitors. I asked them about that, and they said, "Why would you want that?"
Oh, okay. Thank God. Not even the drummer?
The drummer didn't want it because he's in the middle of his kit.
Oh. Maybe they need to talk with Woody and Dijon, especially Dijon.
I just realized we're calling people out live on a stream.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Potentially hundreds of folks.
Potentially
hundreds of folks.
And that
Twitch says 3, and I'm one of those 3.
Potentially hundreds. Potentially.
So that is why I'm saying we are going to end it here. So, yeah, so shout out. So we'll start out with Skyrays, since he joined in right at the end here.
Shout outs to the Big Tasty.
Is that a block of cheese or butter?
Yes.
Don't eat where you play.
That's a block of cheese, you can tell from the striations.
Shout outs to the micro-robotic marvel known as the OC, however that's pronounced.
Osei.
Osei,
can you see?
Mm-hmm.
What?
By the dawn's early light.
By the dong's early light, exactly.
I'm glad my glasses aren't on because that facepalm would have hurt me.
I don't facepalm. I just face punch.
Alrighty, and next up on to Marzi. If she unmutes.
Marzi, you
muted. Shout out to the I don't know.
Yes.
The stutter.
Here, I got the thing. Shout out to this thing right here.
Shout out to
there you go. Shout out to the Huawei MateBook 13. There you go.
And that's yours, Larsis.
No, it isn't. I got another one.
Shout out to Larsis. Wish he could narrate like everything in my life.
Oh, Jesus Christ, not you too.
I said it. I said it first.
She started it in the text chat. Scroll back up.
I was gonna say, does it seem like I care? I've got 2 hands, not a single fuck in either one.
Alrighty, and next up on to Larsis.
Today's shoutouts are to the Razer Blade and Razer in general for sponsoring us on our continuing coverage of CES 2019, as well as to the Sennheiser Ambio 3D soundbar, which goes on sale this May for $24.99.
99.
Hey.
Alrighty, and next up on to Double R.
Next, my shoutouts to all the girls' toys that are way better than the boy toys. And on a related note to the, just want to give some thanks to the Moon Hag Heretic that has been able to bring us all together for these things for all these years. That he's quite the person, despite his questionable loyalties.
Who?
Guess you'll have to figure it out later.
Well,
Anyways,
which one of the Moon Hags?
I'm confused.
Guess you had to be there.
Larsus, I think he just called us Moon Hags.
Moon Hag Heretic.
Yeah.
As I say, you realize that the only thing stopping you from buying more Celestia merch is a lack of Celestia merch, right?
That is not true. You're not looking hard enough.
No, that's the problem. I can just waltz into a pony convention and say, Luna thing, Luna thing, Luna thing, Rainbow Dash thing, more Luna thing, and all these Pinkie Pie things, but there is no Celestia thing that I can just do that with.
Oh, you mean fandom made, not actually from Hasbro. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Luna is better on the CMC.
Fires, explosions, LOE, Roan, venison jerky,
I like venison jerky.
Yes.
Lots of ums.
Venison jerky is quite nice.
Oh, from Umbridge?
No. And shout outs to Treble, even though he only said nothing. He was not needed in there.
No, not really.
Well, you see, he was too busy managing conventions or something.
Does he do music?
No.
He teaches music.
Yeah.
Oh, I got one more joke shout out here.
Go ahead.
It's to something made of leather and has buckles on it.
Your dad?
I like it.
That is the Mastrop and British Belt Company Siena Sefino belt, or Seffiano belt, made of proper Tuscany, from the La Perla Azzurra tannery, Saffiano leather.
Worn by your dad.
No, actually, I have one.
How many buckles does it have on it?
One.
You said it had buckles. You said plural buckles.
I said it involves leather and buckles. They have multiple belts.
Okay, fine.
Alrighty. And yes, now it's time to end. So, without further ado, thank you to all of you guys that show up. Make sure to tune into all the other stuff that goes on throughout the week. So yes, on Thursdays, I think Silent Blasto may do his thing on his whatever thing.
I think he's off for a little bit right now.
Okay, and Friday, the Roan RPG stream, I think, still goes on. And let's see, Saturday, Creatures on a hiatus. Sunday, you can come around for Circuits Let's Play. That's always fun. Monday, you can stop by. Ooh. Celestia's got a gun. Do.
Yeah, she's coming for you.
Hey!
And yes. So, and then Monday we have the Brony Show, which is prefaced by the Equestrian Flag Stop, which you guys
word
can...
is prefaced.
Whatever! That's why
Well,
you
you're
narrate,
supposed to say
not me.
outline, but no, you didn't.
So yes. So the Equestrian Flag Stop, which is its pre-show, so please enjoy those. And then there's the Coffee House After Party, which is a good time. Thursday, you can go watch somebody better, like Odyssey or Cyril or P1K or somebody else who streams that's much better than I am. And then Wednesday, you can come watch me do this. Either we do readings or we do games and stuff. Our scheduled start time is at 8:30 Central, but we normally start at 8:45, so that's kind of what I'm running right now. So, without further ado, thank you all very much, and get out.
Oh my god.
Fascinating Hindware. बढ़िया color, design design. Get off finish.
小小的人儿啊，风筝对起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心。我是谁家那小谁，神枪赛过火力魁，毛军赛过猛张飞，干战发型两丢黑，是走南闯过北，骑着初中有把腿，长江黄河喝过水，和鞭炮地雷亲过嘴，喝这种憔悴是满的千人锤，你是西山挖过煤，还是东山见过鬼？这人生苦短累，今朝有酒今朝醉，为了不哭大声笑，为了不笨大声呸。小小的人儿啊，风筝对起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心呐。小小的人儿啊，风筝对起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心。他是谁家那小谁，身材赛过杨贵妃，貌美赛过七仙妹，婀娜多姿如翡翠，是红男绿女配，都是20郎当岁，纯洁幸福勇敢追，爱打爱 K 绝不气馁。可他很自卑，是满脸人倒霉，您是白天摸过黑，还是夜里做过贼？这人生苦短累，今朝有酒今朝醉，为了不哭大声笑，为了不笨大声呸。小小的人儿啊，风对起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心呐。小小的人儿啊，风筝对起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心。为了不输大声擂，为了不服大声追，为了不哭大声笑，为了不笨大声呸。为了不输大声擂，为了不服大声追，为了不哭大声笑，为了不笨大声呸。小小的人儿啊，风筝追起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心呐。小小的人儿啊，风筝追起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心呐。小小的人儿啊，风筝对起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心呐。小小的人儿啊，风筝对起呀，天天就爱穷开心呐。逍遥的魂儿啊，假不正经吧，嘻嘻哈哈我们穷开心。
And thank you all for showing up. It's been a fun time. And yes, come back next week with Skyrays or Commander and CMC, whatever they can figure out. Nobody knows yet, so it should be fun. I might be joining in on call. I don't know. I'll have my laptop and stuff down there, but I won't be able to stream, obviously, because I'm not going to take my whole rig. But thank you all for showing up. It's been fun. This is Winchester 572 going 10-7. I'm out. Bye-bye.